Mr. Johnson here with a tutorial on how to create a soccer game within Gimkit Creative. Before I begin, I want to point out that I think it's helpful to have your map created before you start programming your game and putting in those final devices. So you can see I have my field set up. Part of getting your map ready is by giving names and numbers to the teams. And you'll see why that's helpful in a little bit. So I have my red team on the left, and I gave them a number, team 1, and then my blue team on the right, and they're going to be team 2. Now that we have the numbers and the names set up, we can set up the first step for our soccer game, which is adding spawn pads. So we're going to hit add. We're looking at devices. We're going to search for spawn, and we're specifically looking for a spawn pad, and the game tells us that's where players should be when the game starts. So I'm going to put one over here from the team. If I click on it, there's some options. The only one I really care about right now is for the allowed team. I just want it to be team 1 since that's their side. And once again, that's why it's helpful to give your teams a number, is that now my red team is team 1. Using the copy command by pressing C on the keyboard, I'm going to go ahead and add 2 more of these. So basically now, if a player is randomly assigned to team 1, they can start randomly at any of these 3 spots. I also think it's helpful to add text here, now that I think about it, is because when a player spawns here at the beginning of the game, they don't necessarily know which team they're on. But if you have this text here and they spawn here, well, then they know, okay, I'm on red team, and that's team 1. So we need to add some for team 2. So I'm just going to use the copy feature again. Before I add the other ones, I don't want to forget to change this for allowed team to team 2. And I can copy these. So now team 2 is going to be able to spawn at any 3 points on their side. Second step is we need to add some soccer balls because that's what soccer is all about. So those are under devices, not props. I think a lot of people or students get confused. They look for it under props, but it is a device because it's part of the game programming. If you search soccer, it won't come up. You got to search ball. I'm going to throw in white in the middle for now. There are some things you can change about it. You can change the appearance, for example. You can change the size. That's as big as it can get. That's as small as it can get. So that's going to be up to you. And you can actually change some of the physics of the ball. For example, how fast it moves, its mass, so how many or how difficult or easy it is to get moving and stuff like that. So those are all options that you can play around with. Don't forget that you can even add more than one soccer ball. I think sometimes that's nice just because it gives kind of more interaction, a little bit more chaos to your game. All right, third step for your soccer game is it's important to point out that in Gimkit, simply moving your character into the ball is not going to move the ball. They have to use a projectile, an item. And so you need to give your players items in order that they can move the ball. So we're going to go back to devices, and we're going to search for something called starting inventory. I'm going to throw that over here for now. So starting inventory is just like it sounds. It's basically this is what your players are going to start with when the game begins. So we're going to click on it. And it's important to point out that, like, if you gave them a banana, for example, that's not going to be very helpful for the soccer game, at least the way we have it programmed now. So you do need to find an actual projectile, and you'll know it's a projectile if it has these rankings of common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary. So I'm going to find just like a snowball launcher for now. They only need one. And so now when the game begins, every player will have a snowball launcher, and that's what they can use to shoot at the ball in order to get it to move. Fourth step for a soccer game is to add some goals. So those are going to be under devices. If you search for goal, nothing comes up. That's because they call it a ball capture zone. So this is basically the game being able to recognize when a ball has entered this zone so that it knows that it's been captured, or in other words, scored. We need to click on this to change some of the settings. First things first is I want to change it to a size. I already have this area set up as my goal. That's why I said it's helpful to kind of have your map created from the beginning. So now I can kind of adjust the size so that it fits where I want it. Next, the zone style. If you click on this, it gives you the option called blast ball goal. And then it creates kind of a soccer goal for you. I think it looks nice. I like to use it. Um, and right there, we can keep all of that the same for now. If you want to explore some of those other options, you can, but that's the basics for what you need. We do need to add one to the other side. So once again, the copy feature is your friend. I'm going to hover my cursor over this and press C. I'm going to go to the other side, put this here. Now we don't have to add all that again. We do obviously clearly have a problem because it's facing the wrong way. Fortunately, Gimkit makes this easy. We can click on it. And for goal side, instead of right, we're going to say left. And all the other settings should be the same. All right, step 5 is going to be setting up the scoring. This is the most difficult part, so I will try to explain it simply. First thing we want to look for is a property. Under devices, I'm going to add something called property. This is basically a property in the game that is going to keep track of how many scores, how many goals have been scored. We need to give it a name, and that's important. To keep it simple, I'm going to call it goals scored. We need this to be a number because it's collecting numerical data, right? How many goals have actually been scored, the number of them. We need to set property scope to team because this is being tracked for each team. And I think that's good for now. If not, we'll figure it out later. We need to add a counter because that's also going to help the game kind of keep track of the score. That is also under devices. I'm going to throw it right here. Notice it's behind kind of the scoreboard that I set up. So I'm just going to hop over to layers really quick. We need to find the counter. I'm going to move it to the above layer. We need to adjust some settings on here. We do want it to start at 0. I actually want it to be visible in game so that way players can see the scoreboard. We need to change the count scope to team because this is being tracked by a team. That's not it. We need to go to property. This is going to update every time a goal is scored for that team. And I think that's all we need for right now. We'll adjust the rest later. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and put one over here for the team because we have 2 teams for our game. Once again, all of that can stay the same. All right, next we need to be able to tell the game somehow that when a goal gets scored over here, like in the red goal, for example, that the blue team gets a point. This is where the wires come in handy. So we're going to go to add, except this time it's not a device, finally. It's a wire. So I'm going to go over here and connect the red goal to the blue team scoreboard. And here's why. When the ball enters the zone, we want the counter to go up. So ball enters zone, we're going to increment the counter. And over here, we need to do the same thing. So we're going to go to wire. We're going to get this ball capture zone to the red team because that's the red team scoring on the blue team's goal. And when a ball enters the zone, the counter goes up. Last thing is we need to adjust some of our map options. So we're going to go to map options. We're going to click on score. We have a leaderboard. You need to have the score type set to property, like we just set up, and make sure your property is the same thing that you named it earlier with the device called goals scored. For the score name, I think it defaults to score, and you can leave it like that because I think that makes sense. But if you want, you can call it goals. And then our score is going to be tracked by team from high to low. So these are the settings that you want to have set up for your soccer game. While we're here, we can go ahead and adjust the teams. It is important that you have to change this because I think Gimkit Creative defaults to free for all, and this is not a free for all. We need a specific team amount, and we're telling the game to have two teams, right? Our red and our blue, and it's going to randomly split them evenly when the game begins. Last thing that we want to adjust in here for ally indicators and enemy indicators, we want to keep that enabled or turned on. And what that does is that helps players know who's on their team and who's not on their team. It tells you here if it's on their team, their name will be in green text. If it's an enemy, the name will be in red text. If you want to, under here under feature, there's a few things that also you might want to change that make sense under the map options. For example, I think soccer works really well with a countdown for the clock. You can give however many minutes you want, and then when the time is up, the game will automatically end. So right now we have all the devices and programming necessary to run a basic soccer game. My eighth and final step is going to be kind of optional, but I think it's something that can make the game more fun, and that's the opportunity to purchase upgrades. I'm going to go up here to the top left of my map, and I'm going to add something called a vending machine. And basically, a vending machine in Gimkit is the opportunity for players to purchase, upgraded items, speed upgrades, stuff like that. So once again, it is under devices. We're going to search for vending machine. I'm going to put it up here at the top left. So we have to decide how this vending machine is going to work in the game. So by clicking on it, we can open up the options. In this case, I'm going to show you how to grant an item. So basically, players in your soccer game can purchase an upgraded item. Something important to decide is what do they have to use in order to purchase the item. To keep this simple right now, I'm going to say cash. I can show you in a separate video how to set up, questions for your game and how players can answer questions correctly to earn cash. I'm not going to show that right now to keep the video short. But if you're curious, you can check out the other video. Required amount is basically how much cash do they need in order to purchase this item. That's going to be up to you. I'll put 50. And then obviously the important part is what item can they purchase from the vending machine. So once again, you need some type of projectile item for players to be able to move the soccer ball. I think earlier I chose an uncommon snowball launcher. So in my game, what I could do is maybe give them the opportunity to purchase a legendary snowball launcher, one that would work a little bit better during the soccer game. So purchasing this would give them one legendary snowball launcher. We do want the vending machine visible in the game so that players can see it and interact with it. And I think that's all we need. So the idea now is that if you set up a questioner and money in your game, players as they're playing, if they're willing to answer some questions correctly, can come up here and choose to purchase an upgrade. So these are all the basics to get your soccer game up and running. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. And there's so much more cool stuff you could do, but that is the basics to create a soccer game.
Goodbye.